channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. Today I'm going to do the thing I always do when I don't really have any smart ideas. I'm just going to go through George Styles' Twitter account and answer whatever questions he posts. That being said, I still have a certain deadline I have to think through, which is why I'm putting 25 minutes on the clock. And let's go. Let's start answering some questions. I might even find some from last year, maybe. Oh, by the way, Happy New Year. Okay, first question, not a question. A true thinker is not driven by promises of a big salary. A true big thinker is motivated by their own intrinsic curiosity. I agree to an extent. Practicality also plays a role in how some thinkers approach problems. And the big salary is, not gonna lie, pretty practical, pretty pragmatic. That being said, capitalism tricks us into thinking that only ideas that are worth a lot of money are actually valuable, even though that is not necessarily the case. And that's all I'm going to say about that, for now at least. Okay, what next? Do you think that someone who is surrounded and weighed down by toxic people is completely and solely responsible for their own predicament? Yeah, tell that to kids of abusive parents. See how well that does. Acceleration due to gravity in most places on the Earth's surface is... yeah, that number. I know what it is, but I'm not going to say it. If someone doesn't feel that this is the true value, i.e. they feel it should be more or less than the given value, does this actually change the value of gravity for all? So if someone thinks that that value is wrong, that in somehow affects the value for others? Like, really, how is that person's perception of gravity supposed to change gravity? Like, if you look at a fire and see it as red when it's actually blue or something, does that mean that fire is blue? No, it doesn't. Okay, moving on. What do you think will eventually lead humanity more forward? Science or religion? And why? I actually had several discussions on that topic on various occasions for various reasons. I think the best answer to that end was actually given by a Romanian YouTuber who calls himself Satan. Yeah, really. He said that religion has been used in order to teach people morality, and the methods which religion uses to teach morality is fear of hell, for example. It's actually a bit more complicated. It goes also through carrot and stick. However, this method is supposed to be temporary. By the time we reach an independent understanding of morality, we should be able to release it. We should be able to let go of religion and just go ahead and live our lives. The problem is, we're not sure if this point even exists. We're not sure if we've reached that point yet, or at which point or when will we actually reach that point. So yeah, overall, the question of religion is not exactly helpful when it comes to morality. When it comes to science, that also poses some problems. But then again, science is when I mean science, I don't mean technology. I mean the actual method of observations, verifications, that kind of stuff. And the conclusions that you derive there, and conclusions which should be repeatable to a large extent. I will say overall, because we can trace it back, because we can explain it, and because we can ground it in something that is more explicit, more and more easy to follow, or more or can more reliably be followed. I'll say science has this. Do you ever think that you condemn yourself as soon as you declare an absolute? This reminds me of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. Some truths are absolute. The sky is blue, or rather, the sky as we see it is blue. Water reaches its highest density at 4 degrees Celsius. That is also absolutely true. So, yeah. How that condemns you, not exactly sure. And we have a guest question from Rich Olson Writer. George started featuring him a lot too. It's a fact you have feelings, but your feelings aren't facts. Well, I'll say this. What you feel is not necessarily a fact. Not in and of itself. Or rather, what motivates you to have that feeling is not a fact in and of itself. Like, you can be disgusted that gay people exist, but gay people in and of themselves aren't disgusting. You know? That's kind of the thing I want. That's kind of my example. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Does anyone know the real rationale of a science denier? I actually think I answered a question pretty similar to this in another video where I answered some of George's questions. And I think the science denier wants to know that the worldviews they've received are true, or that the worldviews they've internalized are true, because to accept something else would mean having to readjust their entire mental structure. Or rather, that would be the case if the science denier is somehow based in religion or culture. When we're talking about novel phenomena of science denial, such as flat Earth, well then I guess therein the problem lies simply in empiricism. The problem simply lies in I don't get it, therefore it is not true. How exactly you prove that to be wrong? I can't think of an answer as of right now. Which do you find more interesting, science or politics? There are two things you can talk about when you talk about politics. There is the first plane, which is about who wins races, who wins political races, who gets more votes, who has more popular support, and how their actions affect that popular support. And there is also the philosophical aspect of politics, which is how do we make sure that the people we are responsible for live their best life. And to that end, I'm not sure if that could be a scientific explanation for politics. There is a lot of science that goes into that aspect of politics, I'll say that much. But overall, whether or not politics in and of itself, or especially theoretical considerations of politics, even counter-science at all, I really can't say. And if they do, they don't count as the hard sciences. And even then, they are based upon generally verifiable observations, and could be construed as such. So Yeah, well, funnily enough, I think this question is a false dichotomy. Oh, I was bound to find one. Okay, what next? I'm gonna skip this one. Is there enough anecdotes and evidence thus far to be able to clearly discern what Twitter's actual agenda is? Very bold of you to assume a website has an agenda. It is simply a bunch of lines of code, and the people who write those lines of code might have their own agenda, and that agenda might influence the way they write those lines of code. But given that that there are people, as in more than one, who has written those lines of code, these differing agendas all clash with each other within Twitter's settings and ways of functioning. So whether or not it has an actual clear defined agenda is really hard to say. I would say it doesn't, and I would say that all evidence that you could gather will point towards that same direction. But then again, that is my opinion. For those of you who have been using Twitter for some time, in my case 6 months, I think 7 soon, what do you find is a big limitation to the full potential to this app? Terms of service? They're not too restrictive, they're not too lenient, or at least I don't think they are. They aren't really enforced enough. You really need to bring more people on that bandwagon, and making sure things get verified by people, and that is not just true for Twitter. That is also true for other stuff. I'm skipping another one. If you think you are a relatively mundane and or an eventful person, are you quite okay with that? Well, overall I'd say yeah. Overall my goals are just living my best life as it is for everyone. If I can live my best life while also making an impact on other people, then that's fine. Okay, that's not fine, that's the ideal, but if I can just go about my daily life with while still being relatively mundane or uneventful, then oh well. At least I'll have lived the life that is closest to my best, I saw an article about the Schrdingers equation and whether or not it is real or true. What do you think? Is it a construct of the human imagination or the formula of the real deal? I do not know enough about quantum physics to be able to actually answer that. So, yeah, sorry, I'm gonna skip this. If you could be infamous, what would you want to be infamous for? Tearing down statues of oppressors, toppling oppressive power structures, and not just governmental but also corporate. So yeah, that kind of thing. I want to be, I'd like to be a Robin Hood, some version of it. If you're an indie writer, so far at least, especially a screenwriter, I haven't done that yet, how do you feel about always being sidestepped for the things Hollywood continues to excrete onto the big screen? Ooh, George starting to go mask off here. I think Tentacruel, who is a YouTuber who talks a lot about music, had a great discussion about that the musical mainstream, which I think works very well in talking about the movie mainstream too. And namely, imagine music as an aquifer, and right in the middle of it, that aquifer is a huge, big, boring lake that just sits there menacingly and does absolutely nothing. Doesn't interact with the rest of the aquifer in any meaningful way. but the rest of the aquifer consists of a whole bunch of rivers that diverge, merge, and flow into each other, flow into swamps, flow into mountains, then spring back out, etc., etc., etc. And imagine you would have to describe the state of that entire aquifer based solely on what the lake is like. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm thinking about. If you're indeed an indie writer and screenwriter, then I suggest you go outside of the typical Hollywood structure. I would suggest you go to more independent labels and providers of film entertainment. If you really want to see something that is truly groundbreaking. Similar for pro wrestling, actually. A lot of people just look at the big companies, but actually the indies is where it's at. So really, you should be following the indies a lot more than the big guys, most of the time. Okay, another one I'm gonna skip. Are you still able to find motivation to do the things you love even when you are exhausted? The things I love prevent me from being exhausted. So yeah. For you, is traveling for business the same as traveling for yourself on your own time? Well, if I travel for business, most of the time my employer pays it for me, so no, it's not the same. It's not the same in that sense. And also, it depends on what I do in the place where I travel to. Do I also get to visit some touristy places? Do I also get to learn the culture of the place, familiarize myself with it? Like, what am I doing there? What is my goal? What can I divide my time into doing? Those are a lot of questions that have very differing answers whether or not I'm traveling for business or for myself. So no, it is pretty much by all definitions not the same. Another one I'm gonna skip. You asked a lot of questions, George. What are some things that you still can't believe that people still haven't gotten their act together on? Do not get me started. Healthcare, legal representation, political representation, economic representation, I'll say. Their own sense of accountability. Yeah, those are some of the things I could mention, at least as of right now. Would you rather have been born knowing everything there is to know? I'd get bored pretty fast, so no. Have you ever been changed by something you learned? Quite often, actually. Why do you think being a warm-blooded animal is an advantage? Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Well, it means you can regulate your body temperature without being as dependent upon your environment as cold-blooded creatures. So that allows you to be more active. That allows you to be have a higher, not necessarily proficiency, but rate at which you develop and change. And to that end, yeah, it is advantageous to be warm-blooded. Do you think we have the most interesting animals now, or that we lost the more interesting animals due to previous extinctions? Well, a lot of what makes the previous animals lost in previous extinctions so interesting is precisely the fact that we have the current crop to compare them to. And really, I'm not sure if other times within Earth's history had similar degrees of biodiversity. We might never know that because fossilization is a pretty rough process. But overall, I think we don't have all of the most interesting animals that have ever existed, but we have most of the most interesting animals that have ever existed. Okay, skipping a few. Would you say that someone is partly, if not wholly, absolved if they admit or owe up to it? No, sorry. If you kill someone and then repent for it, you still have to do time in prison. That's just a fact. If you owe up to it and express remorse, you might be able to get a lighter sentence and maybe get out sooner based on parole. But otherwise, you still should go to prison. Sorry if that bothers you, but it's the truth. Another one I'm gonna skip. Do you ever think you will be able to get to the point where you can tweet something like "the" and get 1 million likes? If so, what do you think the secret is? It's not on Twitter. It's getting famous outside of Twitter, and then I just remembered Kofifi. Yeah, it's getting famous outside of Twitter, and then going on Twitter, and at that point, anything you could post will get 1 million likes or thereabouts. Especially if the things that you're famous for outside of Twitter are also, ridiculous image stunts, ridiculous kinds of stunts. So yeah, that's my answer. Do you think you have good celebrity potential? Well, I'm not stupid. I hope I'm not. I'm decently good looking, I guess. Not really much of a public speaker, but we'll get to that. So I'll say yeah. I have celebrity potential. I'm gonna skip over a bunch. What do you think are the most triggering topics these days? Well, all the topics that are generally controversial. I don't know which topics are the most controversial as of right now, aside from, the socialism-capitalism divide. But whatever. Do you agree with the following quote from Bertrand Russell? In all affairs, it's a healthy thing now and then to hang a question mark on the things you have long taken for granted. Yes. Yes, I agree. Another question from Rich Olson. The secret of freedom lies in educating the people, whereas the secret of tyranny is in keeping them ignorant. By Maximilien Robespierre. Funnily enough, this quote comes from the guy who ruled France during the not only during the French Revolution, but exactly during the Reign of Terror portion of the French Revolution. So he's either a massive hypocrite, or this quote comes from the time after that Reign of Terror, when he learned his lesson. So yeah, generally it's it is however a good quote. However, the secret of freedom is not all there is to freedom. Like, it's not enough to just educate people. You also have to educate people the right way, and then allow these people means by which they can exercise the skills and knowledge they have gained through that education. That is how you get. That is how you get freedom. Not just when you know things, but also when you can do the things you know. Should marriage licenses have expiration dates that the couple must choose to renew every 5 years, just like many other licenses? Ooh, I've actually been thinking about that. Once when I was 19, I actually flirted with the idea that couples should mandatorily tattoo the names of their people who get married should tattoo the names of their partners upon themselves, mandatorily, if you really think it's for life. People have been telling me that that is naive, idealistic 19-year-old me. But then again, if you place that condition upon people, the divorce rate might drop, as it would with whereas with this suggestion, divorce rates would stay probably about the same. The question I want to ask Rich Olson, who actually suggested this question, is, I started so I'll finish. Shut up. The question I want to ask Rich Olson is, can the marriage be annulled at any time aside from the 5-year intervals when this license needs to be renewed? So yeah. Also, a question: is a high divorce rate a bad thing in and of itself? Well, not necessarily. It just depends upon how you negate or mitigate the consequences of that divorce. And the extent to which you can do that really defines more than anything else what how good it is that people can indeed divorce. And it would be ideal if people, if every marriage was perfect first try and people never had to remarry, but yeah, that's not exactly the case, and I'm not exactly sure how we can ensure people will always find exactly the right person which they want to remain for the rest of their lives. Well, I could think of some methods, but liberals and libertarians will jump on my head and say that I'm wrong, and for various reasons in various ways. So I'm not even gonna try. And yeah, that's been it. You already heard the alarm. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have anything you'd like to add, the comment section is wide open. If you want to see when the next video comes out, then go ahead and subscribe. Maybe also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will require of you. And if you want to see more from me without having to wait for the next video, then you can go ahead and check my social media, link in the description. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.